If you're over 60 and you start your morning by swallowing a handful of vitamins with nothing but a glass of water before breakfast even touches your lips, I need you to pause for a second because that habit you've probably been told is getting ahead of your day might actually be working against your stomach, your energy, and in a couple of cases, your medications. There are seven vitamins that doctors and pharmacists quietly warn people about when it comes to taking them on an empty stomach. And the very last one on this list is the one almost nobody thinks to worry about. It's a supplement millions of people over 60 take every single night for sleep and leg cramps. And the way most people take it might be working against them in a way that has nothing to do with nausea. Before we get into the list, I want you to actually do something instead of just listening. Look at your kitchen counter, your nightstand, wherever you keep your supplements, and count them. Actually count. Then drop that number in the comments below because I have a feeling it's higher than you think, and by the end of this video, you might be counting a different way. Number 7 on today's list is vitamin C, and I know this one surprises people because we've been told for decades that vitamin C is gentle, harmless, practically foolproof. For most people in small doses, that's true. But once you start looking at the higher dose vitamin C supplements that a lot of adults over 60 take, the 500 milligram or 1000 milligram tablets marketed for immune support, the picture changes a little on an empty stomach. Vitamin C is ascorbic acid, and that word acid is the whole story. Picture squeezing a lemon directly onto a scrape instead of diluting it in water first. That sting is concentrated acid meeting exposed tissue with nothing to soften the contact. Your stomach lining works the same way. When there's food already sitting in there, it acts like a buffer, a layer that spreads the acid out and slows down how quickly it hits the stomach wall. Take that same acid on a completely empty stomach, and some people feel it almost immediately as heartburn, a burning sensation, or general stomach discomfort. This matters more after 60 because acid reflux and GERD become more common with age. Stomach lining can thin over time, and a lot of people in this age group are already managing digestive sensitivity for other reasons. The Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic both note that high dose vitamin C supplements are more likely to cause digestive upset when taken without food, precisely because of that acidity. I think of the composite pattern I've seen described again and again. Someone who takes their vitamin C first thing to boost immunity for the day, then spends the next hour dealing with a burning feeling in their chest they assume is unrelated when it's actually their supplement routine. The takeaway here is simple. If you take vitamin C, especially anything above 200 milligrams, take it with a meal or right after one, not on its own first thing in the morning. If you only take vitamins before breakfast, because that's your routine, even a small bite of toast or a piece of fruit beforehand can make a real difference. And here's a bonus tip that most people never hear. If you're prone to heartburn, look for a buffered vitamin C formula, sometimes labeled as calcium ascorbate or sodium ascorbate, which is designed to be less acidic on the stomach than plain ascorbic acid. So even if you do occasionally take it without food, the impact is gentler. It's also worth mentioning that plenty of people mistake this kind of vitamin driven stomach burn for a side effect of one of their prescription medications and end up mentioning it to their doctor at their next appointment without ever thinking to look at their supplement bottle. So if you've noticed new heartburn since starting a vitamin C regimen, that timing overlap is worth paying attention to before assuming it's something else entirely. Number 6 is iron. And if you or someone you know has ever been prescribed an iron supplement for anemia, you probably already know exactly what I'm talking about because this one tends to announce itself quickly. Iron is a heavy mineral, and taken on an empty stomach, it behaves a bit like introducing a rough, dense material into a pipe that expects something smoother passing through. Think of dragging a piece of gravel through a garden hose instead of water. Without food to coat the stomach and slow the mineral down, iron supplements are notorious for causing nausea, stomach cramping, and constipation, sometimes within the same hour they're taken. This is one of the more well documented interactions in general nutrition guidance, and the NIH's Office of Dietary Supplements specifically notes that while iron does absorb best on an empty stomach in laboratory terms, the real world tolerability is often so poor that taking it with a small amount of food is the more realistic, sustainable approach for most people. After 60, this becomes even more relevant because iron deficiency anemia becomes more common, whether from reduced dietary intake, certain medications, or underlying conditions that affect absorption. So, more people in this age group end up on iron supplements in the first place. I think of the general pattern that shows up so often. Someone starts an iron supplement exactly as directed, empty stomach for maximum absorption, and within a week, they've quietly stopped taking it altogether because the nausea felt worse than the fatigue they were trying to treat. That's a real problem because inconsistent iron use doesn't fix anemia. The direct takeaway is this: if plain empty stomach iron isn't working for your stomach, don't just quit. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist about taking it with a small snack instead of a full meal, since large amounts of dairy, calcium, coffee, and tea can all block iron absorption. So the goal is a small, low calcium bite of food, not a full breakfast. And here's a bonus tip worth remembering. If you take iron alongside a vitamin C source, like a small glass of orange juice or a few strawberries, the vitamin C actually enhances how much iron your body absorbs. So it's one of the few pairings where combining supplements works in your favor instead of against you. One more thing worth knowing so it doesn't catch you off guard: iron supplements commonly turn stool darker, sometimes almost black. And that on its own is a normal, harmless reaction to the mineral, not a warning sign. The actual warning signs to watch for and mention to your doctor are ongoing severe cramping, vomiting, or stool that looks tarry and sticky rather than simply dark, since that distinction is what separates a normal supplement reaction from something worth a phone call. Number five is zinc. And out of everything on this list, zinc might be the single fastest to cause a reaction on an empty stomach, sometimes within 15 or 20 minutes. If you've ever taken a zinc lozenge or tablet first thing in the morning and felt a wave of nausea hit almost instantly, that wasn't a coincidence and it wasn't just you. It's one of the most consistently reported side effects of zinc supplementation without food. Think of your stomach lining like sensitive skin and zinc without any buffer, like applying a strong, undiluted astringent directly onto that skin with nothing to dilute it first. The result is immediate irritation, and in the stomach, that irritation often gets interpreted by your body as a direct trigger for nausea. The Mayo Clinic and several pharmacist facing resources specifically flag zinc supplements as one of the more common offenders for empty stomach upset. And it's worth noting this matters more for people over 60 because zinc supplements are frequently taken for immune support, wound healing, or taste and smell changes that become more common with age, meaning more people in this group are reaching for zinc regularly rather than occasionally. In the general pattern I hear about often, someone takes a zinc tablet purely out of habit alongside their morning coffee, and within minutes, they feel queasy enough to consider skipping the supplement altogether going forward when the real fix was never the supplement itself, just the timing. The actionable takeaway is direct. Always take zinc with food, ideally a meal that includes a small amount of protein, which tends to further reduce the nausea risk compared to food alone. If you're taking zinc as a lozenge for a cold, try to have at least a few bites of something in your stomach beforehand rather than taking it completely fasted. And here's a bonus tip that doesn't get mentioned enough: zinc and iron compete for absorption when taken together in high doses. So if you're taking both, it's worth spacing them a couple of hours apart during the day rather than swallowing them side by side so neither one blocks the other from doing its job. It's also worth knowing that zinc lozenges tend to be worse for this than zinc capsules or tablets. Simply because a lozenge sits directly against the lining of your mouth and throat for several minutes as it dissolves, giving it more direct concentrated contact time than something you swallow whole, which is part of why cold season zinc lozenges in particular get so many complaints about queasiness. Number four is your B complex and B12 specifically, which is one of the most commonly supplemented vitamins for people over 60, largely because the body's natural ability to absorb B12 from food tends to decline with age, especially for anyone taking certain long term medications like metformin or acid reducers. Here's the mechanism in plain terms. B vitamins are directly involved in how your body converts food into usable energy. So, taking a concentrated dose on a completely empty stomach is a bit like flooring the gas pedal on a cold engine before it's had a chance to warm up. There's nothing there yet to smoothly absorb and process that sudden metabolic push. And for some people, that shows up as jitteriness, mild nausea, or an unsettled stomach feeling shortly after taking it. This reaction isn't universal. Plenty of people take B12 on an empty stomach with zero issues, but it's common enough that Harvard Health and other general health resources routinely suggest pairing B complex supplements with a meal, both to ease digestive tolerance and because a small amount of food can support more even absorption throughout the morning instead of one concentrated spike. In the composite pattern that comes up again and again, someone starts a B12 supplement because their doctor flagged low levels on blood work, takes it fasted because that's simply become their habit with all their pills, and assumes the slight jittery, queasy feeling afterward is just normal aging or stress when it's actually a fixable timing issue. The direct takeaway is to pair your B complex or B12 with breakfast rather than taking it the moment you wake up, particularly if you've noticed any stomach sensitivity, restlessness, or mild nausea after taking it in the past. And here's a bonus tip worth knowing. If you're on a sublingual B12, meaning the kind that dissolves under your tongue rather than being swallowed, food timing matters less because it's absorbed directly through the tissue in your mouth rather than passing through your stomach first. So that specific form can be a good workaround if regular B12 tablets have been bothering you. And one small reassurance while we're on the topic, if you notice your urine turning a bright, almost neon yellow shortly after taking a B complex, that's simply excess riboflavin or vitamin B2 being filtered out by your kidneys, and it's completely harmless, even though it tends to alarm people the first time they see it. Quick pause before we get into the final three, because these next ones matter even more. If any part of this has already made you think about a supplement sitting on your counter right now, tap that like button. It's a small thing, but it genuinely helps this video reach more people over 60 who are dealing with the exact same questions. And while you're at it, drop a comment telling me which one on this list surprised you the most so far, because I read every single one. Number three is vitamin D. And this one works differently from everything we've covered so far because the issue isn't really about nausea or stomach irritation. It's about whether your body can actually use the vitamin D you're taking in the first place. Vitamin D is fat soluble, which means it needs dietary fat present in your stomach to dissolve properly and get carried into your bloodstream. Think about trying to dissolve a spoonful of sugar into ice cold water versus warm water. Technically, it might eventually dissolve, but it takes far longer and far less of it actually mixes in evenly. Fat soluble vitamins on an empty stomach behave a lot like that sugar in cold water. Without any dietary fat around to act as a carrier, a meaningful portion of the dose simply passes through your digestive system without ever being properly absorbed. This is especially relevant for people over 60 since vitamin D supplementation becomes far more common with age for bone health. And skin naturally becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight as we get older, meaning more people are relying on their supplement dose to actually count. The NIH and multiple bone health organizations have specifically noted that taking vitamin D with the largest meal of your day, whichever meal that happens to be for you, meaningfully improves how much of it your body actually absorbs compared to taking it on an empty stomach or with a very light fat free snack. In the general pattern that shows up often, someone takes their vitamin D consistently every single morning, exactly as prescribed, with nothing but water, and months later their blood work still shows levels lower than expected, and they assume the supplement simply isn't working for them, when the real issue was never the dose, it was the timing and what it was taken with. The direct takeaway is to take vitamin D with whichever meal of your day includes the most fat, whether that's eggs, nut butter, avocado, or even a glass of whole milk, rather than defaulting to first thing in the morning purely out of habit. And here's a bonus tip that's easy to apply. If you take a fish oil or omega 3 supplement, taking your vitamin D at the same time can actually work in your favor, since the fat in the fish oil itself can help carry the vitamin D along with it. If you've been supplementing consistently for several months and want to know whether your timing changes are actually making a difference, a simple blood work panel from your doctor can measure your vitamin D levels directly, which is a far more reliable way to judge what's working than guessing based on how you feel day to day. Number two is vitamin E. And like vitamin D, this is another fat soluble vitamin that needs dietary fat present to be properly absorbed. So, on a completely empty stomach, a real portion of your dose is likely going to waste before your body ever gets the chance to use it. But vitamin E carries an extra layer of importance for anyone over 60 that goes beyond simple absorption. And it has to do with how it interacts with certain medications. Vitamin E has a mild natural blood thinning effect, and if you're taking it alongside a prescribed blood thinner like warfarin or even a daily low dose aspirin, that effect can compound in ways worth being aware of. Picture a machine that's already well oiled and then adding even more oil on top of that. At a certain point, instead of running smoothly, things can start to slip more than intended. That's roughly the concern here, not with normal recommended doses paired with food, but specifically with high dose vitamin E supplements taken inconsistently or in ways that stack unpredictably with other medications. The Mayo Clinic and several cardiology focused health resources specifically flag this interaction as something anyone on blood thinning medication should discuss directly with their doctor or pharmacist before adding a vitamin E supplement to their routine rather than assuming it's automatically safe simply because it's sold over the counter. In the composite pattern I come across often, someone starts taking vitamin E purely for skin or heart health reasons they read about, without realizing it has any relationship at all to the blood thinner they've been on for years. And it's only during a routine appointment that the interaction even comes up. The direct takeaway here has two parts. First, take vitamin E with a meal that includes some fat, the same way you would vitamin D, to actually absorb it properly. And second, if you are on any blood thinning medication, whether prescribed or something as common as daily aspirin, mention any vitamin E supplement to your doctor specifically, rather than assuming it's a non issue. And here's a bonus tip: natural source vitamin E, often labeled on the bottle as D alpha tocopherol, is absorbed more efficiently by the body than the synthetic version labeled DL alpha tocopherol. So, if absorption is a concern for you, that labeled distinction is worth a quick look next time you're shopping for one. It's also worth remembering that most people already get a reasonable amount of vitamin E through everyday foods like nuts, seeds, and vegetable oils. So, unless a doctor has specifically identified a deficiency, there's rarely a need to reach for a very high dose standalone supplement in the first place, which sidesteps the medication interaction question almost entirely. And that brings us to number one, the one I mentioned at the very start of this video, the supplement almost nobody thinks to worry about because it doesn't carry the same reputation for stomach trouble that something like iron or zinc does. Number one is magnesium. And if you take it every night for sleep, restless legs, or muscle cramps, the way you've been taking it might be working against you in a way that has nothing to do with nausea and everything to do with timing and dosage. Magnesium works partly through an osmotic effect, meaning it draws water into your intestines as it moves through your digestive system. Picture turning a garden hose on at full blast versus a gentle trickle. Both eventually get water where it's going, but one does it forcefully and quickly, while the other is gradual and controlled. Taking a full dose of magnesium on a completely empty stomach, especially the more commonly sold forms like magnesium oxide or magnesium citrate, is closer to that full blast version. And it's a major reason so many people experience diarrhea, cramping, or urgent digestive discomfort, specifically at night, right when they're trying to wind down and sleep, not wake up and run to the bathroom. This matters enormously for people over 60 because magnesium has become one of the most widely recommended over the counter supplements for this exact age group, for sleep quality, for leg cramps, for general muscle relaxation, and for supporting healthy blood pressure. The Cleveland Clinic and several sleep focused health resources specifically note that taking magnesium with a small evening snack rather than on a completely empty stomach right before bed meaningfully reduces the risk of digestive upset while still supporting the relaxation effects people are taking it for in the first place. There's also a second layer here worth knowing. Magnesium can interact with certain blood pressure medications and some antibiotics, either reducing their effectiveness or increasing certain side effects, which is exactly the kind of interaction that's easy to miss when a supplement feels as harmless and routine as magnesium does. In the general pattern I hear about constantly, someone starts taking magnesium purely for better sleep, takes it on a completely empty stomach right before bed because that's simply when they remember, and ends up dealing with stomach cramping or loose stools that they never once connect back to the supplement itself because magnesium simply doesn't have the same reputation for stomach trouble that something like iron does. The direct takeaway is this: pair your magnesium with a small evening snack, something as simple as a few crackers or a small piece of fruit, rather than taking it on a completely bare stomach right before bed. And if you're on any blood pressure medication or antibiotics, check with your pharmacist about spacing them apart from your magnesium dose. And here's the bonus tip to close this one out. Magnesium glycinate is generally considered gentler on the digestive system than magnesium oxide or citrate. So if you've struggled with stomach upset from magnesium in the past, asking your pharmacist about switching forms, not just adjusting timing, might be the real solution you've been missing. So if there's one thing to take from today's list, it's that when you take your vitamins might matter just as much as which vitamins you're taking in the first place, especially after 60, when your stomach, your medications, and your absorption all work a little differently than they did decades ago. A few small changes to timing can be the difference between a supplement that's actually helping you and one that's quietly working against you. If you know someone over 60 who swallows a handful of vitamins every morning with nothing but coffee or water, do them a favor and send them this video today because this is exactly the kind of thing that's easy to overlook until someone points it out. Next time, we're going to look at the most common vitamin and medication combinations that quietly cancel each other out. And there's a good chance at least one of them is sitting in your own medicine cabinet right now. If this video helped you look at your morning routine a little differently, subscribe for more videos like this one. And let me know in the comments which vitamin on today's list you're going to start taking differently. This video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, please consult your doctor for personal guidance.